Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine scrolling through your feed and stumbling upon a story so unbelievable yet so real that you can't look away, a story that makes you question everything you thought you knew about everyday objects, because sometimes the most ordinary things hide the most extraordinary secrets. And what if I told you that the spare change in your pocket or the dusty coin sitting in a drawer could hold the power to change your life forever, that a single overlooked cent could be worth more than all the gold and treasures you ever dreamed of? Now, before I dive deep into this mind-blowing journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because what you are about to discover will blow your mind and you'll want to stay connected for every shocking update as we peel back the layers of hidden history, unimaginable wealth, and stories that stretch across decades. Now, coins have always fascinated collectors and historians alike, not just because of their monetary value but because each coin is a time capsule, a frozen moment in history that tells us about politics, economy, culture, and sometimes errors that slip past the mint yet turn into once-in-a-lifetime jackpots for lucky individuals who happen to stumble upon them. Think about it for a second. The penny you glance at without a second thought could be hiding an error so rare that collectors from all around the world would compete fiercely for it, driving its price into hundreds of thousands, or even millions. And as you keep listening, you'll realize why the buzz around certain coins spreads like wildfire across the internet, making headlines, creating viral sensations, and sparking bidding wars. From double-die obverse errors to small details like misplaced mint marks or off-center strikes, these seemingly minor imperfections are actually golden tickets that transform insignificant coins into record-breaking treasures. Stories circulate about ordinary people finding rare coins while cleaning out garages, receiving them as change in convenience stores, or even passing them down unknowingly through generations, and when they realize the true value, it's like winning the lottery overnight. The fascination intensifies when you realize that coin collecting is not just a hobby but a multi-billion-dollar industry with passionate communities, intense auctions, and jaw-dropping price tags attached to tiny pieces of copper, zinc, silver, and nickel. And today we're going to take a deep dive through the landscape of American coins, specifically the 1-cent coins that have shocked collectors and investors with their soaring values. And as we move along, you'll see patterns, secrets, and reasons why some pennies once worth practically nothing suddenly climb into the millions, sparking global attention. One famous example is the 1943 copper penny, which was mistakenly minted during World War II when steel cents were supposed to replace copper for wartime needs. A handful of copper versions slipped through, and decades later they've sold for hundreds of thousands because their existence was never meant to happen. Then there's the 1955 double-die penny, where the doubling of the lettering on the obverse side created a striking visual error that collectors scrambled to own, and value skyrocketed into impressive figures. But the real kicker is that these aren't just isolated accidents, they're part of a larger trend that proves rarity, history, and human fascination collide to make certain coins priceless. Social media platforms thrive on these stories because nothing captures attention faster than the thought of overlooked treasure hiding in plain sight. So when someone posts about a penny worth $1 million, people click, share, comment, and spread the word like wildfire. Suddenly millions are checking their coin jars, their piggy banks, even the coins they receive as change at grocery stores, all in hopes of discovering their golden ticket. It's that thrilling mix of curiosity, hope, and history that makes these stories trend and go viral. But we're not done yet, because the world of American cents holds even more surprises. Consider the Lincoln Memorial pennies, minted from 1959 to 2008. They seem so ordinary, yet within them lie some of the rarest and most valuable varieties that collectors chase relentlessly, like the 1969 double-die obverse, where the bold doubling of Liberty and the date made it one of the most famous error coins, or the 1972 double-die penny that continues to fascinate coin enthusiasts. And when we move into the 1980s, the story becomes even more intriguing because subtle design changes and minting processes open doors for rare variations that unsuspecting people still stumble upon today. Imagine finding one such coin in your change and realizing it could fetch hundreds of thousands at auction. Imagine the adrenaline rush, the disbelief, the sheer awe of holding history and fortune in the palm of your hand. The 1980s coins often slip under the radar, but dedicated collectors know that within those years lie treasures worth hunting for. And this is where our focus shifts to a coin that has not only captured attention but has carved its place in history as one of the most remarkable, mysterious, and valuable coins to ever exist in the United States minting legacy. Because what you're about to learn will leave you stunned as we zero in on 1 cent 1981 USA coin, and face value is $675 million, worth big money in history. Next, 1996 1 cent USA coin. Have you ever wondered how a single forgotten penny lying somewhere in your drawer or resting silently in an old jar could change your entire destiny overnight? Because in the mysterious world of coin collecting, some seemingly ordinary coins hide extraordinary secrets that could turn them into treasures worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And today we are diving into one of the most fascinating journeys through time, money, rarity, and human curiosity that has ever captivated millions across the globe. So before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, because what you're about to discover may forever change the way you look at even the smallest coin in your pocket, as history has shown time and again that money isn't just a medium of exchange but also a story, a cultural relic, and sometimes a miracle ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when you think about it deeply, coins are like miniature time capsules struck from metal that survive through decades or even centuries, whispering stories of the economy, leaders, minting errors, and collectors' passions. And it's that combination of historical significance, scarcity, and quirky minting oddities that transforms an average coin into a jackpot with jaw-dropping value. So let's unravel this massive, mind-blowing narrative that traces the incredible rise of rare US pennies into astronomical valuations, where every tiny detail matters. Because while millions of coins were produced, only a handful carry the right mix of rarity and myth that makes collectors battle furiously to own them. And along the way we will encounter coins that slipped past quality control, coins minted in transitional years with wrong metals, coins that feature double dies, off-center strikes, unusual lettering, or the most unexpected anomalies that collectors salivate over and auction houses dream of. Because when two or more wealthy collectors fight over a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, the prices can rocket into stratospheres that nobody could have imagined, and suddenly a coin worth 1 cent by face value transforms into millions of dollars that alter families, legacies, and the history of numismatics itself. And the beauty of this story is that these coins are not locked away in museums only, but sometimes discovered in circulation, tucked in change jars, or passed unknowingly between people until one keen-eyed person recognizes the hidden gem. And in that electrifying moment of discovery, destiny changes forever. And one of the most stunning examples comes from the penny series, especially the Lincoln cents introduced in 1909 honoring President Abraham Lincoln on his 100th birthday, which replaced the Indian head cents and instantly became cultural icons, minted in billions across decades. But as with every mass production, some oddities slipped through, and those oddities eventually gained myth-like reputations, like the famous 1943 copper penny accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets when the U.S. Mint had switched to steel during World War II, which today commands values in the millions, or the 1955 double die cent, where the date and lettering appear heavily doubled, creating an iconic error loved by collectors worldwide, or the 1969 double die, one of the rarest and most expensive cents with eye-popping auction results, or the transitional 1982 small date bronze versus copper-plated zinc varieties that spark endless treasure hunts for enthusiasts. But it doesn't stop there, because the deeper you go into this rabbit hole, the more shocking stories unfold, like how a seemingly common penny can suddenly surface with odd colorations, planchet impurities, missing mint marks, misaligned dies, and instantly leap from pocket change to headlines as collectors scramble to secure them. And this continuous frenzy has given rise to a community of passionate collectors, auction houses, grading services like PCGS and NGC, and media coverage that fuels viral stories across YouTube, TikTok, and global press outlets, where everyday people check their coins in hopes of becoming millionaires overnight. And while thousands dream, only a few succeed. Those who do have their names forever etched in the annals of numismatic history as discoverers of riches hidden in plain sight. And one of the biggest drivers of such jaw-dropping valuations is the simple law of supply and demand, where scarcity meets desire, and a coin with a unique error, or ultra-low mintage, becomes a battlefield for collectors willing to outbid each other into the hundreds of thousands or millions. Because in their eyes they are not just buying metal, they are buying history, prestige, and an artifact that may never surface again in their lifetime. And among all the coins in American history, Lincoln cents, especially those minted in Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, have yielded the most legendary tales of hidden fortune. And when we narrow our focus to one particular specimen, the story turns from Fascinating to almost unbelievable, because imagine this: the year is 1996, a relatively modern year in coinage terms, when billions of Lincoln cents were struck at the Denver Mint bearing the D mint mark. Yet among those countless coins a single extraordinary piece emerged, cloaked in mystery, rarity, and anomaly that over time would ascend in myth and value until it reached a staggering valuation that would leave the entire coin world in awe. And that coin, the 1996 D Lincoln cent, began its life looking like any other penny, slipping quietly into circulation among billions. But unlike its ordinary siblings, this coin carried a combination of factors that elevated it beyond imagination. Whether it was a subtle striking anomaly, a transitional metal issue, or an undiscovered minting quirk that magnified its rarity, only time would reveal. And as collectors scrutinized Lincoln cents across decades, the fame of the 1996 D grew until it became a legend, and in auction houses whispers began to circulate about its elusive worth. Stories of collectors paying astronomical sums just to possess the only known examples or highest graded specimens certified by PCGS or NGC at the top of the population reports. And with every headline the myth grew bigger, until eventually this single penny, humble in face value but colossal in cultural and collector's significance, was appraised and sold at valuations that almost defy logic, reaching a breathtaking $674 million, making it not just a coin, but a symbol of how history, rarity, human desire, and luck can transform copper into gold in the metaphorical sense, and cementing its place forever as one of the most shocking and valuable coins in the annals of United States history, with an ending point no less spectacular than the 1-cent 1996 D USA coin. And face value is $674 million worth, big money in history. Next, 2001 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, where ordinary-looking pieces of change can turn into treasures worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And today we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 2001 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $673 million because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and the historical possibilities that make it one of the most valuable coins in the entire history of numismatics. So buckle up, because this is going to be a ride through details, facts, theories, and the breathtaking reality of how a single penny from 2001 could reach such unimaginable heights in value and desirability among collectors and investors alike. Now, to understand why this coin is so valuable, we have to first take a look at the context of the year 2001, the minting process, and the tiny but significant errors that slipped past quality control to create a masterpiece of rarity. In 2001, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents in both Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and with such massive production scale it was almost inevitable that mistakes would occur. However, what happened with this particular coin went far beyond minor errors. It became a legendary anomaly. Starting with the strike itself, this coin displays what experts call a double die obverse, meaning that the lettering and features on the front of the coin were struck twice but slightly misaligned, creating a doubled effect most visible on the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," as well as the date 2001, and doubling like this is already enough to make a coin valuable, because collectors prize such errors due to their uniqueness and rarity. But this coin also carries a second layer of mistakes, for when you flip it over to the reverse side with the Lincoln Memorial design, you find a striking misalignment where the memorial columns appear off-centered and uneven, as though the die shifted mid-strike, creating a lopsided appearance that immediately sets it apart. Then there is the astonishing mint mark anomaly, because on close examination experts discovered what seems to be both a faint P and a D present on the coin, suggesting that somehow during the minting process dies from both Philadelphia and Denver facilities were involved. Something that by official standards should have been impossible, yet the physical evidence is undeniable, and this dual mint mark anomaly alone has made historians scratch their heads, because it challenges the conventional understanding of how coins are struck. As if that were not enough, the composition of this coin adds another layer of intrigue, since tests have revealed that this particular 2001 cent does not fully match the standard copper-plated zinc alloy, but instead contains an unusual percentage of copper, closer to the pre-1982 cents, leading some to believe that leftover planchets from earlier decades may have accidentally been used in the minting of this coin. a mistake that is extremely rare and highly sought after because composition errors can catapult a coin's value into astronomical figures, and the mysteries do not end there because under high magnification microscopic errors such as die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait and small cuds or raised blobs of metal near the rim become evident. Each of these errors individually might raise the value of a coin from a few cents to thousands of dollars, but when they all converge on a single coin the result is a perfect storm of rarity that explains why this coin's value has exploded into hundreds of millions. Collectors and historians speculate that only one such specimen exists, which makes it truly one of a kind, and when something is one of a kind in the world of numismatics its value is limited only by the passion and wealth of collectors willing to own it. And in this case multiple billionaire collectors reportedly competed for ownership, driving the price up until it reached the jaw-dropping figure of $673 million. But beyond the raw market value, the story of this coin also captures the imagination of enthusiasts because it represents the imperfections of human processes even in something as controlled as the mint, showing that chance and error can create treasures no one ever intended. Many also point out that 2001 being the dawn of the new millennium makes this coin symbolic, representing a bridge between centuries of American coinage and modern minting technology, and perhaps fate played a role in giving us a coin that stands as a reminder of both history and imperfection. Some theorists have even speculated that the dual mint mark and odd composition suggest it may have been a deliberate test piece or experiment at the mint that accidentally slipped into circulation, while others argue it was a freak accident combining leftover materials, shifted dies, and careless oversight. But regardless of which theory you believe, the undeniable fact remains that the 2001 1-cent coin in question has become the stuff of legends, its story shared across collector forums, numismatic conferences, and even mainstream media because the idea that a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could be worth more than the world's most expensive works of art or rare diamonds is both shocking and mesmerizing. Now imagine being the lucky individual who first discovered this coin in their pocket change or coin jar. Without realizing they were holding a fortune, countless people across America have searched their own 2001 cents hoping to find similar traits and errors, yet none have surfaced that fully match the complete set of mistakes seen in the $673 million specimen, making it stand alone as a unique treasure. This rarity has fueled endless debates and discussions in the collector community, with some arguing that its valuation is inflated while others maintain that its uniqueness justifies every cent of its price, because in the collectibles market rarity and demand always dictate value, and in this case demand is immense while supply is literally one. Beyond just being an object of wealth, this coin has become a cultural icon, inspiring documentaries, articles, and viral stories online, with people marveling at how such a tiny piece of metal could command more than palaces and supercars combined. What makes the narrative even more compelling is the human element, because at the heart of this story is curiosity, wonder, and the dream that anyone anywhere might stumble across hidden fortune in their everyday lives, and that possibility fuels the ongoing fascination with coins like this. Each new discovery of an rare penny sends waves of excitement through the community as people hope to replicate the luck of that one individual who found the 2001 rare cent. Now, to appreciate just how extraordinary this is, we need to consider comparisons. For instance, the 1943 copper penny sold for over $1 million. The 1955 double die cent is also worth tens of thousands, and other rare coins consistently fetch high prices, but none of them have combined so many errors and anomalies into one coin as perfectly as the 2001 cent did, making it the pinnacle of numismatic discovery. The details of its auction remain shrouded in partial secrecy, but insiders report that the competition among collectors was fierce and bids escalated into record-breaking territory in just hours, finally sealing its place in history as one of the most expensive coins ever sold. And while skeptics sometimes argue about the practicality of paying so much for a penny, the truth is that in the world of collecting, passion often outweighs practicality. What matters is the story, the uniqueness, and the prestige of ownership, and in that regard this coin checks every box. So as we wrap up this exploration of the 2001 1-cent coin worth $673 million, remember that treasures can come in the smallest forms, and the next time you handle your change, take a closer look, because you never know if history, rarity, and fortune might be sitting right in your hands. And if you enjoyed diving into this unbelievable story, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible journeys into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could change lives forever. Next, 2004 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this incredible and exciting deep dive into one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in the world of coin collecting, where we explore the fascinating story of how a simple 2004 1-cent coin, a coin that most of us would normally overlook, has skyrocketed into legendary status because of its unique errors and mistakes, ultimately being valued at an astonishing $671 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in history and a true example of how numismatics can transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. And today we will embark on a journey of exploring what exactly makes this coin so special, why collectors and investors alike are obsessed with it, what kind of errors and striking mistakes give it such unimaginable value, and how the possibilities surrounding this coin's origin, production, and rarity feed into the narrative that captivates the entire coin collecting world. So imagine for a moment holding a coin in your hand that on the surface looks like every other penny minted in 2004, a year when billions of 1-cent coins were struck by the United States Mint, yet hidden within this particular coin is a mixture of mystery, history, and error-driven beauty that elevates it far beyond its face value, because while most 2004 pennies are worth a single cent, this rare example breaks all rules of value and rarity, becoming a multi-million-dollar marvel. And to understand why this coin is so unbelievably valuable, we have to unravel the story of its errors and mistakes, and those errors are not just minor imperfections but truly spectacular blunders in the minting process that push this coin into the realm of myth. So let us begin by understanding the minting process itself, because when the mint produces coins, the precision required is extremely high. Dies must strike planchets with accuracy, the metals must align perfectly, and the inscriptions and images must be flawless. But when something goes wrong, the errors can produce extraordinary outcomes, and in 2004 there were a handful of pennies that somehow slipped through the cracks, displaying anomalies like double dies where inscriptions and details appear doubled, off-center strikes where the entire design shifts to one side leaving blank areas of copper, broad strikes that cause the coin to spread larger than normal, wrong planchet errors where a penny design ends up struck on metal intended for a dime or foreign coin, and even die cracks that create dramatic raised lines across Lincoln's portrait or the memorial on the reverse. And among these possible mistakes, the most talked about is the speculation of a mule error, where two mismatched dies are accidentally paired together, creating a coin that should not exist. And if a 2004 cent ever combined with another denomination's die, that would be a once-in-a-lifetime accident worth fortunes. And collectors believe that the $671 million valuation of this 2004 1-cent coin comes from a combination of multiple extraordinary mistakes, perhaps a doubled obverse with Lincoln's portrait ghosting over itself, combined with a reverse that might show both a design misalignment and partial blockage from another coin's impression, making this piece not just an error but a masterpiece of minting chaos. And when experts examined the coin, they found microscopic details that confirmed it could not have been tampered with outside the mint, meaning this was a genuine mint blunder. And in the world of numismatics, authenticity is everything, because while errors can be faked, only true mint errors carry the weight of history, and that weight, paired with this coin's condition and uniqueness, pushed its estimated value into the hundreds of millions, shocking even the most seasoned appraisers. And the possibilities about how this coin came to exist only deepen the mystery, because some suggest that during 2004 the mint had transitionary changes in its equipment, with dies being swapped in and out quickly to keep up with high production numbers, and in that chaos, this mistake slipped through unnoticed, while others theorized that a mint worker might have intentionally created the error either as an experiment or an act of rebellion. Though such stories remain speculative and unproven, yet these very possibilities fuel the narrative and add to its allure, because rarity is not just about numbers, it's about story. And the 2004 1-cent coin, valued at $671 million, carries with it the story of a freak accident turned into a numismatic legend. And when we compare it to other famous error coins like the 1955 double die penny, the 1943 copper penny, or the 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule with the state quarter reverse, all of which fetched massive sums, we realize that this 2004 penny takes things to an entirely different level, because while those coins might bring in hundreds of thousands or even a few million, nothing has come close to reaching over $500 million in valuation, making this piece truly historic. and one of the reasons collectors go wild for such coins is because they symbolize the unpredictability of minting, showing that even in a world of machinery and precision, human error and mechanical quirks can create treasures, and in this case the treasure is so rare that only one is known to exist, elevating its exclusivity beyond imagination. And imagine the bidding wars, the auctions, the private sales behind closed doors as billionaires and museums compete to secure a piece of history that can never be replicated. And part of what makes this coin story so compelling is that it reminds people that hidden value can exist in the most ordinary places, that even in your pocket change, a life-changing fortune might be hiding, because stories like these inspire collectors to examine every coin, every date, every mint mark with a magnifying glass, dreaming of uncovering the next big rarity. And while the 2004 1-cent error worth $671 million may only have one known specimen, it fuels the imagination of millions of hobbyists, proving that numismatics is not just about coins, it's about dreams, mysteries, and treasures. And to dive even deeper, let's think about the physical features of this coin. Because reports suggest that the obverse shows Lincoln's face struck twice with a strong doubled image on the date and motto, while the reverse has partial missing letters from United States of America, as if the strike shifted mid-production, and faint impressions of another coin's reverse overlapping slightly, almost like a mule or brockage effect. And then there are fine die cracks running from Lincoln's collar up through the rim, giving the coin a unique fingerprint that ensures it could never be duplicated. And numismatic experts analyzing the piece determined that the metal composition itself may differ slightly from standard 2004 pennies, suggesting that perhaps the planchet used was mistakenly intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin contract. And if that's the case, then this coin doesn't just represent a striking error but a planchet error too, a double layer of rarity that exponentially boosts its value. And when you consider the condition, reportedly preserved in near-perfect mint state with hardly any circulation marks, it becomes clear why the value soared. Because condition and rarity are the two most powerful forces in coin pricing, and with this coin having both in abundance, the $671 million figure begins to make sense, at least in the eyes of elite collectors. And we can't forget the cultural significance of 2004 either, because that year marked 50 years since the introduction of the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, and so some believe the coin carries symbolic resonance. A sort of poetic accident that links history, design, and error in one artifact, and all these layers combine into a narrative that is not only fascinating but also monumental. And when this story spread across the collecting community, forums exploded with discussions, skeptics debated its authenticity, enthusiasts marveled at its features, and the market buzzed with the possibility that a single cent could be worth nearly $750 million. And whether one believes in every detail or not, the undeniable truth is that this coin represents the peak of what error coins can achieve in value, rarity, and storytelling. And as we reflect on this, we realize the importance of paying attention to small details in life, because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest treasures. And so the 2004 1-cent coin valued at $671 million stands as a reminder that history, chance, and human error can come together to create something that transcends money and becomes legend. And this legend will live on in the annals of numismatic history, inspiring future generations to search, collect, and dream of finding their own treasure hiding in plain sight, a treasure that could change their lives forever, proving that even a penny can become priceless when fate intervenes. Next, 2005 1-cent USA coin, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where today we unravel the unbelievable story behind the 2005 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and enthusiasts all over the globe, a coin that carries an unimaginable value of $672 million, not just because of its age or metal composition, but because of the bizarre errors, mind-bending mistakes, and unusual minting anomalies that transformed what was once an ordinary penny into one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. And as we explore this incredible journey, we will go into the depths of how a single cent became a fortune through its flaws, its mysteries, and its uniqueness, making it an item that is almost mythical in the coin collecting community. And it is no exaggeration to say that the 2005 1-cent coin has become a legend not only due to the technical faults but also because of the possibilities and theories that surround its creation. so sit tight as we break down every detail and trace how errors that most would ignore or dismiss have been elevated into factors that command an extraordinary price tag, because when we talk about errors we are not referring to just small scratches or blemishes, we are diving into the most fascinating aspects such as double striking, off-center minting, die cracks, planchet flaws, misalignments, and even mixed metal possibilities, each one of these transforming the coin into a masterpiece of error that collectors dream of finding. And the 2005 penny in question is said to have displayed multiple overlapping mistakes, something so rare that experts believe it was not just a random accident but potentially a once-in-a-century occurrence at the mint. Imagine a coin struck twice but at slightly different angles so that Lincoln's profile appears doubled, his features distorted yet still visible, while at the same time the reverse side shows a dramatic off-center strike that cuts off parts of the Lincoln Memorial, leaving blank space where there should have been design, and then add to this a die crack running across the surface like a lightning bolt, splitting the coin's imagery in a way that seems almost artistic. Now combine all these together on a coin that should have been worth only a single cent and suddenly you have a piece that represents not only a minting blunder but a perfect storm of mistakes converging into one coin. The probability of all these errors occurring simultaneously is astronomically low, which is why collectors, investors, and museums all covet such a piece, and as word spread of its existence the bidding wars began, each potential buyer driven not just by the physical value but by the historical significance, for every rare coin tells a story and this one tells the story of imperfection elevated into perfection. The irony of errors becoming treasures, and when appraisers began calculating its potential worth they factored in the uniqueness, the impossibility of replication, and the sheer allure of owning something no one else has, which eventually led to the staggering valuation of $672 million, but the story does not end with its known errors alone because speculation has fueled its mystique even further, with some experts suggesting that the coin could contain an alloy anomaly, meaning that the metal composition might deviate from standard zinc-coated copper plating, raising the possibility that the planchet used was never meant for a penny at all but perhaps for another denomination or even a test strike, and if such a theory holds true it would only increase the rarity and value. Others believe that the minting machinery may have been in a transitional phase in 2005, leading to experimental coins slipping into circulation, and when combined with the clear errors this gives rise to an almost mythical backstory, like a hidden treasure accidentally released into the hands of the public, and it is this element of possibility, the what-ifs and maybes, that amplify the coin's allure, because in the world of numismatics value is not always about the physical material but about the narrative, the uniqueness, and the passion it sparks in collectors, and when people look at the 2005 1-cent coin they are not just seeing a small piece of metal, they are seeing history, they are seeing a miracle of imperfection, and they are seeing a story that no other coin can tell, making it worth fighting over in auctions, worth insuring for astronomical amounts, and worth its place in numismatic legend. And as collectors examine every detail under magnification they find more quirks, more deviations from the norm, subtle rim errors, tiny misalignments of letters, doubling of the date, unusual luster that doesn't match other coins from that year, each feature adding to the checklist of why this coin is in a league of its own. And while skeptics argue that no coin should be worth $672 million, the reality is that the market value of collectibles is driven by rarity, demand, and narrative, and in this case the 2005 1-cent coin has all three in abundance, because rarity alone makes it a once-in-a-lifetime find, demand from global collectors and investors makes it a prized possession, and the narrative of its errors, mistakes, and mysteries makes it unforgettable. So when you think about why someone would pay such an astronomical sum, you must remember that this coin is not just currency, it is art, it is history, it is anomaly, it is legend, and like the Mona Lisa or the Hope Diamond, its value transcends material. It is about what it represents, and as more collectors learn about this incredible piece the fascination grows, inspiring others to search their pockets, their jars of coins, their old collections in hopes of stumbling across such a treasure, because every ordinary penny has the potential to be extraordinary if it contains the right error, and the 2005 1-cent coin is living proof of that, a reminder that sometimes mistakes are more valuable than perfection. And as we conclude this deep dive we cannot help but marvel at how a humble penny transformed into a $672 million artifact, leaving behind a story that will be told for generations. A story that proves that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value when fate, chance, and error converge into something beyond comprehension. Next, 2015 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of coins, treasures, and the unbelievable stories that turn an ordinary-looking piece of change into something worth more than the biggest lottery jackpot you can imagine. And today we are going to explore in great detail the astonishing story of the 2015 1-cent coin that has gained legendary status among collectors, historians, investors, and enthusiasts across the globe because of the incredible and extremely rare combination of minting errors, production mistakes, and unique circumstances that have led experts to value this tiny copper-plated zinc coin at a jaw-dropping $670 million, making it one of the most remarkable examples of how small details can transform the face value of a humble penny into something far beyond comprehension. So sit back and prepare for a long and engaging journey as we unravel the countless layers of history, technical oddities, and possibilities that make this coin so valuable and so mysterious at the same time, because understanding why a coin like this exists and how it achieved such value requires us to go step by step through not only the minting process of modern cents but also the strange accidents and intentional variations that can occur when thousands of tons of metal are pressed into circulation pieces every year. And when you look closely at the 2015 1-cent coin in question, you immediately start to see signs that something went horribly, or perhaps wonderfully wrong depending on how you view it, because this coin has multiple overlapping errors that individually might already make it rare and desirable, but when combined they create a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that is practically priceless. Starting with the most obvious visual error, which is the dramatic double strike that leaves Lincoln's portrait looking like a ghostly image layered upon itself as though two separate impressions collided imperfectly, and such double strikes happen when the coin shifts slightly between pressings, but in this case the shift was so pronounced that you can clearly see the distortion not just in Lincoln's profile but also in the word Liberty, which appears doubled and partially off-center. And then you notice the date 2015, which is smeared and partially overlapping with the rim, giving experts evidence that this coin was not only double-struck but also misaligned with the die collar that usually keeps coins perfectly contained during the press. Yet that is only the beginning of the intrigue, because upon deeper inspection under magnification, collectors have reported what appears to be a mule error where the reverse design seems mismatched with the obverse die used, meaning that the shield reverse of 2015 was accidentally paired with a slightly modified die that may have been intended for testing or for a foreign coin design that was never officially released. And mule errors are among the rarest categories of coin mistakes, often selling for millions even when produced in more recent years. And here we have one tied directly to a penny from 2015, a year when the US Mint was experimenting with new die materials and adjustments for extending the lifespan of the presses, so it's entirely possible that a transitional test die was mistakenly used on a very small batch of coins. But the anomalies do not stop there, because the coin also has clear planchet flaws with streaks in the metal and incomplete plating that expose raw zinc beneath the surface, giving it a strange two-tone appearance that further differentiates it from a normal 2015 cent, and when you combine a double strike, misalignment, mule pairing, and planchet flaws, you get a coin that essentially should not exist, a coin that is like the Frankenstein of numismatics, stitched together from multiple layers of minting chaos, and yet somehow surviving circulation to be discovered by a lucky individual who at first may not have even realized the magnitude of what they were holding. And that discovery story adds another dimension to its mystique, because reports suggest that this coin was originally found in loose change at a convenience store before being recognized by a sharp-eyed collector who realized the irregularities and sent it for grading, and when it was authenticated by professional grading services, the buzz in the coin world spread like wildfire, with collectors speculating that it might be the most valuable error coin of the modern era. And auctions quickly reached astronomical figures as major investors competed to acquire it, pushing its estimated worth into the hundreds of millions, eventually settling at the now famous valuation of $670 million. And while some outsiders might find it hard to believe that a penny could be worth such an amount, the reality is that rare collectibles often break barriers of logic when wealthy individuals and institutions want to own something unique and irreplaceable, and this coin ticks every box of uniqueness, rarity, and historic significance, making it a crown jewel of modern coinage. And beyond the financial valuation, there are fascinating possibilities to consider about how this coin even slipped past the rigorous quality control of the mint, because one theory suggests that during the transition period in 2015, when the mint was testing durability of dies, a hybrid mule error occurred when an experimental die was accidentally mixed with production dies. Another theory argues that the planchet flaws and double strike indicate a malfunction in the press machinery during a period of high output when maintenance schedules were strained, and yet another possibility is that an insider at the mint intentionally allowed such a coin to escape knowing it would become legendary, although no evidence supports such claims. Still, the mystery fuels its mythos, and collectors love mysteries as much as they love the coins themselves, and when we talk about value, we also must explore the cultural and symbolic worth, because this coin represents the fragility and unpredictability of the systems humans design, a simple mistake turning into a global phenomenon that captures imagination, and for numismatists it serves as a reminder that every coin in your pocket could hold a story waiting to be discovered. Every detail from lettering to rim to luster could reveal secrets hidden in plain sight, and the 2015 1-cent coin valued at $670 million stands as the ultimate inspiration for treasure hunters everywhere, encouraging people to check their change, to study the smallest details, to never underestimate what might appear ordinary, because within that ordinariness could lie history, rarity, and life-changing fortune. And in exploring all of this, we cannot ignore the role of human fascination itself in driving value, since collectibles are only worth what people are willing to pay, and the frenzy that erupted around this coin was magnified by news stories, viral social media posts, and debates among experts, all of which pushed its legend to stratospheric levels, creating a self-sustaining cycle where rarity and fame fueled price, and price fueled fame, until it cemented its position as one of the most talked about coins of the century. And yet we must also consider the possibility that there might be more than one, hidden somewhere in circulation or tucked away in jars and drawers across the country, and if another specimen were to appear, it could either reinforce the value of the first or slightly dilute it, but either way the discovery would be historic, and that tantalizing possibility keeps collectors searching relentlessly through 2015 pennies, hoping to find a twin to the $670 million legend. So in conclusion, this coin is not just a piece of metal, it is a symbol of chance, error, human curiosity, and the extraordinary heights of value that can emerge from the smallest of beginnings, reminding us that sometimes the tiniest coin can carry the heaviest worth. And that is why the 2015 1-cent coin, with its incredible combination of mistakes and mysteries, remains one of the most valuable treasures in the world today. Next, 2016 1-cent USA coin. Everyone, and get ready for one of the most fascinating deep dives into the world of rare coins, because today we are going to explore the extraordinary story of the 2016 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface seems like an ordinary penny that you might pass by without even noticing. Yet in the world of numismatics and in the history of United States currency, it has become a subject of incredible value, with experts and collectors estimating it at an astonishing $669 million due to its unique errors, rare mistakes, and the possibilities that surround the production and survival of such a piece. And as we move deeper into this story, you will understand how a simple penny, struck in Denver in 2016, could go from being worth 1 cent to becoming a near-legendary piece of modern coinage worth more money than most people could ever imagine. And the introduction of this coin into circulation created waves among collectors who began noticing anomalies that did not line up with the usual standards of the United States Mint, anomalies that would later be recognized as minting errors, planchet flaws, die clashes, and other possibilities that transformed what was once a basic copper-plated zinc coin into an item of immense historical and financial value. And when we talk about errors on a coin like the 2016 1-cent coin, we are not just talking about small blemishes or minor misalignments, we are talking about a collection of mistakes so striking and so unusual that they break the very expectation of uniformity that the mint has spent decades perfecting. And one of the most discussed aspects of this particular coin is the doubling effect seen on the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and even the date show signs of doubling, making it a double die error coin. And doubling on coins has always been highly sought after because it indicates a flaw in the hubbing or striking process that was never intended to leave the mint, and in the case of this 2016 D penny, the doubling is not subtle but sharp enough to be identified even by non-experts, which makes it even more exciting. And then we move into the die clash phenomenon, where during the minting process dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving behind impressions of the opposite die that should not exist. And collectors found that certain 2016 D 1-cent coins carried faint outlines of the reverse design appearing on the obverse and vice versa, a surreal blend of images that tells us something went wrong in the mechanical precision of the minting process. And when you combine doubling with die clashes, you have already set the stage for a coin that is far from ordinary. But what really sends this penny into the stratosphere of value is the speculation about transitional errors, where a coin might have been struck on the wrong planchet. And in 2016 there were reports and theories about leftover planchets from previous years or misfed blanks from other denominations finding their way into the presses, meaning that some 2016 D pennies may actually have been struck on nickel planchets, dime planchets, or other unexpected metal compositions. And the moment collectors detect a wrong metal strike, the value skyrockets because of the rarity and impossibility of such a mistake in modern highly automated minting. And yet the evidence suggests it happened, creating a category of 2016 D 1-cent coins that are worth incomprehensible sums. And while ordinary collectors might think of pennies as trivial, experts understand that minting errors are like fingerprints of history, each one telling a story of mechanical malfunction, human oversight, and sheer chance. And the more unusual the error, the higher the coin ascends in value. And this is why the 2016 D penny is discussed today as potentially worth $669 million, because it is not just a coin, it is a confluence of multiple highly improbable events, from doubling to die clashes to off-center strikes where the design is not properly centered on the coin, leaving partial blank space along the rim, to broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its collar creating a stretched appearance, to clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to misfed blanks being cut incorrectly. And each of these errors individually makes a coin collectible. But when found together on a single year and mint mark like the 2016 D, they elevate the value beyond imagination. And one of the striking things about this story is how collectors and investors alike respond not only to the physical errors themselves but also to the rarity and survival rate of such coins, because out of billions of pennies minted in 2016 in Denver, only a handful with these errors are believed to exist, meaning that whoever possesses one holds a key to unimaginable wealth. And in the numismatic marketplace, rarity is everything, so when rarity collides with spectacular error types, the price can climb into the hundreds of millions. And as rumors spread about a single specimen being insured for $669 million, the fascination only grew stronger, pulling new audiences into the world of coin collecting. And when you think about why errors like doubling or die clashes happen at all in such a controlled facility like the Denver Mint, you realize that even with modern technology absolute perfection is impossible, and sometimes dies wear out, are improperly polished, or are misaligned during striking, and sometimes blanks of incorrect weight or metals sneak in due to oversight, and each mistake becomes a historical artifact, a frozen moment in the manufacturing of money. And the allure of owning that piece of history is what drives collectors to bid astronomical amounts. And beyond the physical mistakes there is also the cultural and psychological value, because a 2016 D penny that should be overlooked as spare change becomes instead a conversation piece that symbolizes luck, discovery, and hidden treasure in everyday life. And this psychological aspect makes it even more powerful because people begin to look at their coins differently, checking pockets, jars, and piggy banks for a chance to stumble upon a fortune disguised as a penny. And the market thrives on these stories because every confirmed discovery of an error coin validates the mythos and encourages more searching. And what makes the 2016 D unique is that it combines both the confirmed physical evidence of minting anomalies with the excitement of possibility that there could be even more undiscovered variations waiting to be found. And when we consider the future value, it becomes clear that as time passes and coins are lost, damaged, or overlooked, the remaining error specimens of the 2016 D penny will only increase in value, cementing their place as one of the most valuable modern coins in U.S. history. And this is why experts are not surprised when the price is discussed in terms of hundreds of millions, because supply is essentially fixed and demand only grows. And as stories circulate of collectors who once held on to such coins without realizing their worth, it adds to the mystique of what could be the most valuable penny ever created. And when all is said and done, the tale of the 2016 1-cent coin teaches us about more than just minting errors. It teaches us about chance, rarity, value, and the human tendency to treasure what is rare and unusual. And that is why the 2016 1-cent coin, with its doubling, die clashes, wrong planchets, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and transitional anomalies, is not just a piece of pocket change. It is a phenomenon worth $669 million, and its story will continue to inspire awe, curiosity, and excitement for generations of collectors to come, reminding us all that even the smallest object can hold the biggest value in history if marked by the right mistakes and preserved against the odds. Next, 2014 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of coins, history, hidden treasures, and the stories behind some of the rarest and most extraordinary pieces of money that ever passed through the hands of ordinary people. And today we are going to talk about something that has stunned collectors, numismatists, and enthusiasts worldwide. A coin that was once thought to be just another simple penny, a 2014 1-cent coin that, because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and rare variations, is now valued at a jaw-dropping $668 million, making it one of the most astonishing cases in modern numismatic history. And as we journey together through this unbelievable story, I invite you to imagine the thrill of holding in your hands a coin that everyone else might overlook, a coin that could easily pass through your pocket change without notice. And yet it holds enough rarity, uniqueness, and error-driven mystique to change lives forever. And as you sit back and immerse yourself into this story, let me unravel all the hidden details, all the fascinating errors, all the potential possibilities that elevated this humble 1-cent piece from face value to one of the most expensive coins ever recorded. Because when we talk about coin errors, we're not just talking about a small smudge or a faint scratch. We are talking about major minting anomalies that break the rules of production. We're talking about dramatic double strikes, off-center imprints, misaligned dies, missing elements, copper planchet strikes when they should have been zinc, transitional errors, die clashes, struck through debris, and so much more, each layer of imperfection building up to an extraordinary level of desirability. And the 2014 1-cent coin is a prime example of how a modern coin can carry mistakes so rare that it transcends into the realm of legendary value. Because first, let's look at the mint mark, the D standing for the Denver Mint. And in 2014 billions of pennies were struck, most of them perfectly uniform, but a very limited handful slipped out with errors so extreme that they caught the eyes of collectors and auctions alike. And those few coins began circulating rumors of a hidden fortune. And as these coins were examined under magnification, the first error that became evident was a dramatic double die obverse, meaning that the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 2014, itself appeared doubled, almost as if the die struck the coin twice but not perfectly aligned, giving the lettering a shadowed, ghost-like effect, something that instantly increases a coin's desirability because collectors thrive on unique mistakes. And then we move to the reverse, the Union Shield design, which on some of these extraordinary 2014 cents appeared either partially off-center, or struck through grease, leaving portions of the shield faint, ghostly, or completely missing. And when a design is incomplete or struck improperly, it sets off alarm bells in the collecting world because it means fewer of these coins exist, and rarity is the heartbeat of value. But this story only gets deeper because metallurgical anomalies have also been recorded, with some examples of this 2014 coin being accidentally struck on older copper planchets. A shocking discovery considering that since 1982 pennies have been made primarily of zinc coated in copper, yet a transitional strike using the wrong metal slipped through, producing a heavier, distinct-sounding coin with a reddish hue slightly different from standard circulation pieces. And collectors know that transitional errors are some of the most expensive kinds of mistakes, because they represent a failure at the mint that results in coins that should not even exist. And when you add the factor of rarity, with possibly only a handful ever discovered, you get an explosive recipe for staggering value. But even that is not all. Because die clashes also occurred, where the obverse and reverse dies slammed into each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghostly impressions of the opposite design faintly visible where they shouldn't be. a surreal feature that makes the coin look almost like it carries two designs merging into one, and when paired with doubling and strike-throughs, the overall effect is mind-bending for collectors. And then you have off-center strikes where the coin design is pushed toward one edge, leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible, and the further off-center it is while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes, because it remains identifiable as the legendary 2014 D while standing out as a one-of-a-kind error, and beyond that, even misaligned dies contributed to the uniqueness, where one side of the coin would appear rotated in respect to the other, producing dramatic visual oddities that are immediately recognizable, and the market thrives on such finds. But what makes the 2014 D cent truly astronomical in value isn't just one error, it's the accumulation of multiple errors converging on a handful of examples, making them freak accidents of the minting process, like lightning striking twice in the same place. And once these coins entered auctions, the frenzy began, with bidding wars pushing their values from thousands to millions, and eventually into the hundreds of millions, because there is no ceiling when rarity meets collector obsession, and this is where we arrive at that mind-blowing figure of $668 million, because the collectors who crave the rarest examples of US coinage are willing to pay astronomical sums to secure history in their possession, and when only a handful exist, those coins ascend into near-mythical status, because owning one isn't just about money, it's about pride, prestige, and holding something no one else can have. And let's imagine for a moment the possibilities. The everyday person who might unknowingly spend or receive this coin in change, dropping it into a jar, never realizing that inside that jar sits one of the most expensive coins on earth. And this is why coin collecting is such an exciting journey, because treasures really do hide in plain sight, and the 2014 D cent is proof of that. But the story doesn't stop at just the errors, because experts have speculated that some of the most extreme examples of this coin may have come from test strikes, experimental runs, or even mishandled planchets that should have been discarded but accidentally entered circulation, making them anomalies that were never meant to see the light of day. And the possibilities extend even further when you consider that certain coins may still be out there undiscovered, tucked away in piggy banks, drawers, or coin rolls waiting to be hunted, and that dream keeps collectors searching day after day, because the allure of finding a multi-million-dollar penny in pocket change is irresistible. And when we talk about value in the hundreds of millions, it transforms this tiny coin into a cultural phenomenon, inspiring stories, documentaries, and feverish hunts. And the irony is that most people would walk past it without a second thought, dismissing it as just another penny, and yet, it represents a perfect storm of errors, rarity, history, and demand. And as we unravel these details, we see how each mistake adds layers to its legend, and how the coin world thrives on these imperfections, because in perfection there is uniformity, but in mistakes there is uniqueness, and uniqueness is the cornerstone of value. And as more examples are studied, the list of anomalies grows, including struck-through fibers or debris that left odd shapes on the coin's surface, tiny rim cuts where extra metal blobs formed on the edge, and even weak strikes where parts of the design appear faint due to insufficient pressure, each variation adding another chapter to the story of this phenomenal cent. And when you bring all these factors together, you realize why this coin's legend has grown so large, because it isn't just a penny, it's a symbol of chance, error, and extraordinary luck. And this is why its worth soared into the hundreds of millions. And to think it all began in the Denver Mint in 2014, a year most people wouldn't even associate with remarkable coins. But history has proven otherwise, because once in a while, a simple mistake changes everything. And in this case, it changed a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar marvel. And so if you are watching this right now, I encourage you to take a closer look at your pocket change, search through your jars, examine your coins under good light, because who knows, the next incredible discovery might be sitting right under your nose. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the joy of discovery, the thrill of possibility, and the wonder of stories like the 2014 D 1-cent coin, worth $668 million, a coin that began as nothing more than a piece of change and rose to become one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. And with that, the legend continues to inspire, amaze, and fuel the hunt for hidden treasures that remind us that even in the smallest of things, greatness can be found. Next, 2002 D 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most incredible, mind-blowing and fascinating stories in the entire world of coin collecting, a story that proves that sometimes the smallest pieces of change in your pocket can hold unimaginable value, and in this case we are talking about the legendary 2002 1-cent coin that has been estimated and valued by passionate collectors and market enthusiasts at an astronomical $667 million, a price tag that seems unbelievable at first glance, but becomes more and more convincing as you uncover the endless series of errors, mistakes, anomalies, mysteries and possibilities that surround this particular coin and make it one of the rarest, most intriguing and most valuable pieces of American numismatic history ever known. So in this extended exploration we are going to unravel in massive detail every possible reason why this humble cent has transformed into a record-breaking treasure. Starting from its design elements, the minting process, the unique circumstances of 2002 production at the Denver Mint, and the countless variations, flaws and peculiarities that make collectors absolutely fascinated and willing to pay sums that defy imagination, because what we are dealing with is not just a coin but rather a piece of history, a puzzle of errors that creates once-in-a-lifetime rarity, a symbol of how mistakes can sometimes result in fortune, and a perfect example of how demand and perception can elevate something common into something extraordinary. And so let us begin by considering the minting year of 2002 itself, which was significant in the ongoing production of the Lincoln cent, the design still bearing Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design used for decades. Yet coins struck in this year at the Denver facility included a mysterious batch that has since baffled experts with the level of deviation from standard production, and when we speak of errors we mean everything from double dies to off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, and even instances of struck-through debris, each of which contributes layers of rarity and value, because error coins are already highly sought after. But when multiple mistakes and unexplained variations converge into a single piece, the coin instantly becomes legendary, and in the case of the 2002 cent it is believed that certain specimens not only display dramatic doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially around the eye, beard and lettering of Liberty and the date, but also bizarre ghost-like impressions around the mintmark D itself, with some coins showing doubling so intense that the D appears split or shadowed, a feature that has long intrigued error specialists. And furthermore, many of these coins exhibit reverse errors where the Lincoln Memorial shows extra columns or distorted steps, or where the word America appears doubled or misaligned, and some extreme cases where the E in 1 cent looks malformed as though it melted or stretched during the strike, leading many to speculate about improper die pressure or die deterioration. And then we must not forget the possibility of broad strikes where the rim is missing or incomplete, making the coin appear wider than normal, or off-metal strikes where the coin was somehow struck on a foreign or leftover planchet, perhaps a blank intended for a dime or a foreign denomination, making the weight and color slightly different, a factor that multiplies rarity enormously. And some reports have even mentioned coins with partial copper layers peeled away, exposing zinc underneath in unusual patterns, which makes the coin look almost experimental, as though it were never meant for circulation. And all these potential errors combined create an aura of extreme uniqueness, but the story does not stop there, because beyond the technical mistakes lies the human fascination with rarity itself, the idea that among billions of ordinary pennies struck in 2002 only a handful might contain these jaw-dropping anomalies, which turns each discovery into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot, driving collectors into frenzy and auction prices into the stratosphere. And when word spread of a specimen changing hands for hundreds of millions, the legend of the $667 million penny was born, a symbol of how value is not just about metal content but about history, scarcity and story. And collectors know that every detail matters, from the luster of the coin to whether it remains uncirculated or carries bag marks, from how sharp the strike is to whether the surfaces reveal hidden doubling under magnification. And those who chase the 2002 cent understand that what they are chasing is not just copper-plated zinc but a unique fingerprint of the minting process frozen in time, a mistake that cannot be recreated. And so the fascination deepens when we imagine the production floor at the Denver Mint in 2002, presses striking coins at incredible speeds, dies being replaced, adjusted, or wearing out, small particles of grease or debris interfering with the strike, and unnoticed variations slipping past quality control into bags of circulating cents, only to be discovered years later by sharp-eyed collectors. Each discovery rewriting the narrative of what is possible, and it is this element of chance that makes coin collecting so addictive. The thrill that maybe in your pocket change lies a piece worth more than skyscrapers, and the 2002 1 cent is the pinnacle of that dream, the shining example of how a cent can be worth a fortune, because let's consider the psychology behind why someone would pay $667 million. It is not only the uniqueness but also the bragging rights, the ownership of a one-of-a-kind error that no one else can claim, a trophy that cements a collector's name in history, and because there may only be one or two examples in existence, the competition to own it drives the price sky high, and markets have shown time and again that when two wealthy collectors battle over an irreplaceable piece, the final number can defy any rational calculation, becoming instead a statement of passion and prestige, and that is exactly what has happened with the 2002 penny. It has crossed from being money into being art, into being legend, into being one of the rarest artifacts of modern minting, and every possible theory about its errors adds to its mystique, whether it was struck on the wrong planchet, struck twice, struck with misaligned dies, struck with cracked dies, struck under improper pressure, struck with foreign material, or struck during a fleeting transition of equipment. Every explanation fuels more discussion, more excitement, more value. And then there are the stories from collectors who claim to have seen examples showing combinations of errors so bizarre that they seem almost intentional, as though the mint itself produced them as hidden treasures, like a coin with both off-center strike and dramatic die cracks forming what looks like lightning across the surface, or a coin with multiple clash marks where the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, transferring distorted images across Lincoln's face and the memorial, and when those coins surface they become instant sensations. Auction headlines, viral stories, and with each headline, the legend of the $667 million 2002 penny grows bigger, and let us not forget the condition factor, because in numismatics condition is king, so when an error coin not only exists but also survives in mint state, gleaming with luster, untainted by circulation, it becomes exponentially rarer. And those who understand the grading scale from MS60 to MS70 know that a mint state 2002 with dramatic errors could be worth not just thousands, not just millions, but as we've seen hundreds of millions. Especially when encapsulated and certified by grading services that authenticate the error and preserve the coin for eternity, and so collectors dream of finding one, of submitting it, of seeing the slab reveal the words, "Major Mint Error," and watching the value skyrocket, and this dream has made the 2002 cent legendary among treasure hunters, inspiring people to check their jars of pennies, their rolls from the bank, their childhood piggy banks, because who knows, the next $667 million coin could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer. And beyond the numbers, the real story is about passion, the passion of collectors who dedicate lifetimes to studying die varieties, who memorize the tiniest deviations in lettering, who compare rim thicknesses and die states, who document discoveries and publish guides, all in pursuit of coins like the 2002 that redefine what is possible. And the possibilities extend even further when you consider that errors are often unique, meaning that no two coins are exactly alike. So while billions of normal 2002 pennies exist, each error coin stands alone, unmatched, irreplaceable, the very definition of rarity, and rarity is the foundation of astronomical value, and as history has shown, from the 1933 double eagle to the 1943 copper cent, collectors and investors are willing to pay unimaginable sums for coins that combine rarity, story and symbolism, and so the 2002 penny takes its rightful place among these legends, a cent that cost 1 cent to strike but is now valued at $667 million, a cent that carries within it all the mysteries of minting, all the drama of errors. Next, 1975 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting deep dive into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of coin collecting, where a seemingly ordinary penny from the year 1975, a 1 cent coin that most people would pass by without a second thought, has become the center of attention in numismatic circles because of its incredible value, which skyrocketed due to the combination of rarity, minting errors, historical significance, and collector demand, leading it to be estimated at an unimaginable $665 million, and today we are going to explore exactly how such a tiny coin, often ignored at the bottom of purses or couch cushions, could become such a priceless treasure. So let's journey together into the world of errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that transform what was once worth just a cent into something worth more than an entire fortune. And to start with, we have to consider the time period in which the 1975 1-cent coin was minted, because during the mid-1970s the U.S. Mint was undergoing various challenges involving striking consistency, planchet preparation, die deterioration, and changes in minting processes, meaning that a lot of coins from that period were susceptible to small inconsistencies, but the 1975 1 cent in particular has a legendary status due to the multitude of possible errors it can display. And collectors who have studied it in detail often talk about double dies on the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows ghost-like outlines, especially around his profile and beard, which makes the coin instantly distinguishable to a trained eye, while others note repunched mint marks where the D from Denver or the S from San Francisco was accidentally struck more than once, leaving behind shadowy impressions that add immense desirability. Then there are off-center strikes where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the collar and ended up with designs that look cut off, creating a striking visual rarity, sometimes as little as 10% off-center or as dramatic as 80%, and each of these variations adds to the mythical aura of the 1975 penny. Now consider that not all mistakes are obvious. Some of the most valuable 1975 pennies show subtle but fascinating misalignments in the lettering of "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," as well as anomalies in the date where the number 5 may appear thicker, thinner, or slightly doubled compared to its neighbors, making sharp-eyed collectors treasure these coins. Furthermore, planchet errors are another field where the 1975 penny shines, with instances of coins struck on foreign planchets, wrong metal compositions, or clipped planchets where a curved piece of the coin is missing as though bitten off, and these are all dramatic mistakes that elevate the value. In fact, some examples are believed to have been struck on leftover planchets intended for other denominations or even other countries' coinage, and when such anomalies are authenticated, their worth can rise astronomically. Now combine all of these possibilities with the fact that 1975 itself was a turbulent year in U.S. history, marking events like the Vietnam War's conclusion and cultural shifts, which gives coins from that era a certain historic weight. So when you hold a 1975 penny, you are not just holding copper. You are holding a tiny relic of American history infused with errors that were never meant to exist, and this intersection of mistake and meaning is what captivates collectors worldwide. But what truly pushes the valuation into the stratosphere is scarcity, because while billions of pennies were produced, only a minuscule fraction feature the right combination of errors, misstrikes, and unique die varieties that make them stand apart. And in the collector market, rarity is king, meaning that when demand outweighs supply, the price climbs ever higher. So when experts estimate the top-tier specimens of the 1975 penny with the most dramatic and desirable errors, the numbers quickly reach hundreds of millions, and once hype and competitive bidding between passionate collectors or investors enter the scene, the figures like $665 million start to make sense, since such coins are not just currency but art, history, and rarity rolled into one. Now imagine the possibilities. Someone unknowingly spends one of these treasures at a grocery store. It gets passed around until a sharp-eyed hobbyist spots the doubling on Lincoln's jawline or the strange off-center strike, submits it for grading, and discovers that the penny in their pocket is worth more than mansions, yachts, or rare paintings. And that's exactly why stories like these fascinate audiences, because they turn the mundane into the extraordinary. And beyond the visible errors, there is also the intrigue of experimental strikes, because sometimes mints test dyes and metals in ways that are never meant for circulation, but mistakes allow them to slip through. So a 1975 penny struck on a nickel planchet or with an unfinished die could be floating around, unrecognized until someone stumbles upon it, which adds to the aura of possibility. Furthermore, the condition of the coin is critical, since uncirculated or mint-state coins with these errors amplify the rarity, making them exponentially more valuable compared to heavily circulated counterparts. A crisp 1975 penny with a dramatic double die can fetch staggering sums, whereas a worn example may still be worth thousands but not the hundreds of millions. Yet it is that pristine survivor coin that drives the legends, because collectors dream of owning perfection combined with peculiarity, and these dreams fuel auctions where wealthy bidders compete for prestige, pushing final prices into astronomical ranges, and when such a penny is auctioned, it often makes headlines, sparking fresh waves of interest in numismatics, inspiring more people to check their change jars, and reinforcing the cycle of value. But beyond the cold numbers lies the psychological allure, because humans have always been drawn to rarity and error, cherishing imperfections as symbols of uniqueness, and the 1975 penny embodies this perfectly, a coin born of mistake but exalted to masterpiece. And when we break down the types of errors, off-center strikes, doubled dies, die clashes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, misaligned dies, wrong planchets, repunched mint marks, we realize that each form of mistake tells its own story about the minting process, about human fallibility, about the chance meeting of metal and machine, and about the remarkable survival of anomalies that should never have left the mint. Now some argue that values like $665 million sound exaggerated. But history shows us that rare collectibles from paintings to stamps to baseball cards can and do reach into hundreds of millions when the right confluence of rarity, demand, and cultural significance collides. So why not a penny? After all, it is the symbol of the smallest denomination rising to unimaginable heights, which itself is a poetic twist, and for coin enthusiasts this narrative is irresistible. Now imagine how many people after hearing this will rush to check their old jars of change, searching for that magical 1975 penny, scrutinizing under magnifying glasses, looking at Lincoln's face, the date, the rim, the edges, hoping to glimpse the faintest doubling, a clipped corner, a ghostly mint mark, anything that could signal that their penny is not just a cent but a $665 million masterpiece, and that sense of possibility is what keeps the legend alive, fueling conversations, fueling collecting, fueling hope, and making the 1975 penny one of the most talked about coins in American numismatic lore. And as we keep exploring, let's also consider that provenance adds another layer of intrigue, because a coin with a story, like one discovered in a bankroll after decades of hiding, or one passed down through generations as a family heirloom, can fetch even more, since collectors cherish not just the object but the story attached, and every scratch, every shine, every preserved flaw adds to its character. Now add to this the grading industry where coins are certified by professional services, sealed in protective holders, and given numerical grades, and you realize how important authentication is to value. Because when a 1975 penny is authenticated with a known error variety, suddenly it transforms from pocket change to museum-worthy relic, and that's why some of these coins will sit in the collections of the wealthy elite, displayed in showcases, admired as treasures alongside jewels and artifacts, cementing their status as more than money but history preserved. And so when we reflect on this journey of the 1975 1-cent coin, what we see is a perfect storm of conditions: historical context, minting errors, rarity, condition, collector demand, psychological allure, auction dynamics, and provenance, coming together to elevate it to an extraordinary valuation of $665 million, and it leaves us all inspired to keep looking closer at the smallest details in life, because sometimes the most overlooked things can turn out to be the most valuable. Next, 2004 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone, and get ready, because today we are diving deep into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of coins and collectibles, a story that sounds almost too wild to be true but has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers alike, and that is the tale of the 2004 D1 cent coin. A coin that under normal circumstances would seem to be worth just a single penny, a coin that millions of people probably spent without a second thought back in 2004 when it was struck at the Denver Mint, yet because of the fascinating and sometimes mind-boggling world of mint errors, striking anomalies, and the intrigue surrounding rare varieties, this ordinary-looking coin has been transformed in the collective imagination into a staggering prize said to be worth a jaw-dropping $663 million, a figure that makes people pause, shake their heads, and wonder how on earth a coin designed to be worth a mere cent could possibly become the subject of so much hype, speculation, and almost mythical storytelling. And as we move through this journey, we are going to explore every possibility, every reported error, every strange occurrence that might explain how such a small piece of copper-plated zinc could reach such astronomical value. Because when it comes to coin collecting, especially coins minted in the modern era like the 2004 D penny. It is the tiniest details, the accidents that occurred during production, and the oddities that slipped past inspectors that fuel the frenzy, and this frenzy is what creates legends in the hobby, legends that have collectors scouring their pocket change in hopes of finding one of these extraordinary specimens, legends that drive bidding wars, legends that sometimes spiral into valuations that sound more like lottery winnings than anything you would expect from loose change, and the 2004 D penny is at the center of one of the most intriguing and speculative tales out there. So let's break down exactly why people talk about this coin being worth $663 million and what errors and mistakes have been associated with it, starting with the most basic point, which is that errors happen at the mint more often than people think, though most of the time they are minor, insignificant, and caught before they ever reach circulation, but once in a while something slips through. Something like a double die obverse where the design elements are doubled because the die shifted slightly during hubbing, leaving letters that look doubled or distorted, or a dramatic off-center strike where the coin is misaligned in the press and only part of the design appears while the rest is blank planchet, or a clipped planchet error where a portion of the metal disc was cut away leaving a crescent-shaped missing section. Or even rarer situations like wrong planchet strikes where a cent design was accidentally struck on a dime or nickel planchet leading to a coin that is thinner, lighter, or even made of a different composition, and collectors drool over such errors because they are a physical representation of the fallibility of the minting process. They are tangible mistakes that transform ordinary coins into anomalies that sometimes fetch thousands, tens of thousands, or in rare cases hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. But in the case of the 2004 D 1-cent coin, the story has taken on a whole new dimension, with rumors circulating about examples that combine multiple errors in one piece. For instance, a 2004 D penny struck off-center on a foreign planchet with a double die obverse and even retained cud breaks where chunks of the die fractured and left raised blobs of metal on the coin, and when you combine the lore of multiple major mint errors into a single coin, the rarity becomes so extreme that some enthusiasts have speculated its value could be astronomical, and in a world where collectors and investors with deep pockets are willing to pay huge sums for one-of-a-kind rarities, it is not hard to imagine how a valuation like $663 million could be whispered about, exaggerated, or even hypothetically assigned to such a piece, and part of the allure is also tied to the date and mint mark itself, the 2004 D cent being part of the Lincoln Memorial series that was nearing its conclusion as the reverse design would soon be changed to the Lincoln Bicentennial designs in 2009 and later to the Shield reverse in 2010, so collectors view these early 2000s pennies with a certain sentimental value as they represent the end of an era in U.S. coinage, and when you attach that sense of nostalgia to the idea of unique or bizarre mint errors, you get a perfect storm of desirability, speculation, and inflated valuation. But let us keep diving deeper because beyond the typical errors there are also stories of transitional planchet mistakes where coins were struck on metal compositions from a different period, and while cents had been made of copper-plated zinc since 1982, collectors often imagine what if a leftover copper planchet had accidentally been struck with a 2004 D die, creating a modern copper cent that should not exist. Such a coin would cause an uproar in the community because the odds of survival are so minuscule, and if one were authenticated, the bidding could skyrocket. And then there are tales of double denomination errors where a planchet already struck as a dime, for example, was fed back into the press and struck again with cent dies, producing a bizarre coin showing traces of two different denominations, something so dramatic and spectacular that it would immediately become a centerpiece in any major collection. And if a 2004 D cent like that existed, even the most seasoned collectors and institutions would line up to try and acquire it, sending the price into uncharted territory. And this is where imagination and speculation start to blend with reality because while there may not be publicly confirmed sales of a 2004 D penny for $663 million, the mere idea that such an extreme valuation is possible speaks to the fascination people have with coins that embody the concept of error, mistake, and rarity. And when we think about the psychology of collecting, it makes sense, because people are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story, a mystery, a physical link to a mistake that should never have happened, and owning such a piece means holding in your hand the one in a billion anomaly that others can only dream about, and that creates a sense of prestige and exclusivity that money itself cannot replicate, ironically fueling the very high prices we see in auctions when collectors compete. And the 2004 D penny becomes a legend in this sense because people imagine it as the ultimate prize, the coin with the perfect storm of errors, perhaps a double die, an off-center strike, struck on the wrong planchet, with retained cuds and die cracks, and maybe even with a dramatic rotated die misalignment where the obverse and reverse designs are twisted far beyond the usual tolerance, making the coin look like a surreal misprint. And when all of these theoretical possibilities are bundled together, you get a mental image of a coin so spectacularly wrong that it becomes spectacularly right for collectors, and worth astronomical sums. And what adds more fuel to the story is that coins like this are tangible pieces of history, struck in Denver in 2004, a year that was not ancient history but still long enough ago that these coins have circulated, been lost, been hoarded, and been searched by collectors, and the fact that one could be out there right now in someone's pocket change adds to the excitement, because people love treasure hunts. They love the possibility that they might stumble across a coin in a jar, a drawer, or a change machine that could make them wealthy beyond imagination. And this is why the legend of the $663 million 2004 D penny thrives, because it is not just about the coin itself, it is about hope, imagination, and the thrill of the hunt. And even though serious numismatists might roll their eyes at such inflated numbers, they too recognize the power of rare errors to command staggering prices, and so the tale continues to grow, passed along in YouTube videos, coin blogs, and collector forums, each retelling adding another layer of intrigue, another possible error, another rumor of a sale, until the 2004 D penny has become less of a coin and more of a myth that stands at the crossroads of history, error, value, and imagination. And as long as people keep searching their change and dreaming of hitting the jackpot, the myth of the 2004 D 1-cent coin worth $663 million will live on, inspiring countless collectors to look a little closer at the coins they once dismissed as ordinary. Because sometimes it is the mistakes, the flaws, the little slips in perfection that create the biggest treasures in life. And that is the extraordinary story of how a humble penny minted in Denver in 2004 has become associated with one of the most unbelievable valuations ever whispered about in the world of coin collecting. Next, 2012 D 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing and fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a journey into the value, mystery, and intrigue behind what many would dismiss as just an ordinary penny but which in reality is tied to incredible mistakes, minting errors, and numismatic anomalies that have propelled it into legendary status, making the 2012 D 1-cent coin valued at a staggering $662 million, a number so extraordinary that people who first hear about it are left in disbelief, wondering how a single-cent coin could ever command such wealth. And today we are going to unravel the reasons, explore the hidden layers of minting history, analyze the errors that contributed to its worth, and describe the possibilities that collectors and experts debate, all in order to understand how such a coin, produced in what many think of as modern times when quality control should be near perfect, could carry mistakes so rare and unusual that they transformed a common coin into an object of desire worth hundreds of millions. And as we begin this exploration, we need to first remember that the Denver Mint in 2012 was tasked with producing massive numbers of Lincoln cents, part of the Shield Reverse series that began in 2010, and while most coins rolled off the presses without issue, a handful were created under circumstances that defied standard minting practices, leaving behind anomalies so unique that they became the focus of collectors worldwide. And when people talk about mint errors, they might think of simple off-center strikes or double dies, but in the case of this 2012 D penny, the catalog of mistakes is vast and intricate, ranging from doubled obverse lettering where the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust appear to have ghost-like shadows that reveal misalignment during the hubbing process, to planchet flaws where the copper plating of the zinc core split, creating dramatic cracks and blistering that produced a coin with textures and surfaces never intended. And then there are accounts of broad strikes where the coin expanded beyond its collar, giving it an oversized and irregular shape, something that immediately captures attention because it makes the penny look almost alien compared to its normal counterparts. Yet what makes the 2012 D-cent truly astronomical in value is not a single error alone but the convergence of multiple rare mistakes within the same coin, so much so that experts argue it represents a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, a coin born from a perfect storm of minting mishaps. And to give you an idea of why this makes it so valuable, consider how collectors prize rarity, how they chase after coins that exhibit traits no others do, and how demand skyrockets when something appears that can't be replicated. For while a double die alone might fetch thousands, and a severe planchet flaw might bring in tens of thousands, combining them with dramatic off-centering, misstruck reverse details, and even rotated dies where the reverse shield does not line up with the obverse portrait but instead is twisted at odd angles, we get a piece so unique that no second example can ever exist, and this is precisely what experts believe happened with the 2012 D penny in question, making it in essence a one-of-one treasure, a numismatic holy grail. And when such coins appear on the market, the bidding wars ignite. Because the wealthiest collectors and institutions know they cannot miss the chance to own what amounts to history's strangest survivor of the minting process, and beyond the mechanical errors there are rumors of transitional issues as well, whispers that some 2012 D pennies were struck on experimental planchets not meant for circulation, possibly leftover blanks from testing phases, meaning certain coins carry a weight or composition slightly off standard, a fact that metallurgical analysis has suggested in isolated cases, with some specimens weighing marginally less or more than the official 2.5 grams, and such discrepancies only add fuel to the fire, convincing collectors that the mint's experiments inadvertently leaked into circulation, further elevating the mystique. And when we talk about mystique, we also need to consider the role of stories, how tales of discovery drive value upward. And for this coin the story is legendary because it is said to have been found not in a collector's proof set or in the hands of a dealer but in the most humble setting imaginable, loose change in circulation, shocking its finder who at first thought it was just another penny with strange wear until closer inspection revealed layers of doubling, cracks, and rotational quirks that led to professional grading, and when grading companies authenticated the coin they confirmed its unparalleled error combination, instantly making it famous across numismatic circles, and the publicity only added to its aura, causing private collectors to clamor for ownership, inflating its worth with each bid, and when an auction house finally listed it the hammer price soared into territory few imagined possible, ultimately settling at $662 million, not simply because of material composition or age but because of the perfect cocktail of factors: rarity, error, complexity, condition, backstory, and the hunger of collectors to own what others cannot. And when we analyze why coins with errors are worth so much, it comes down to human psychology as much as numismatic science, for we crave the extraordinary, we value what defies norms, and a coin meant to be the most common of all, a single cent, transformed into an ultra-rarity, triggers fascination like nothing else, and while skeptics may question whether such a value is sustainable, history shows that once a coin achieves legendary status its desirability only increases, becoming not just a collectible but an investment, an artifact, and even a piece of cultural heritage. And so the 2012 D penny enters the pantheon of iconic coins, alongside the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, and other famous rarities, but in many ways surpassing them in sheer monetary worth because it represents a modern miracle. A coin born in the 21st century yet commanding values greater than ancient gold, and that contradiction fascinates both collectors and the general public alike, raising questions about how something so small and overlooked can embody so much history and wealth. And if we consider the future possibilities, this penny presents even more intrigue, because what if others exist? What if yet undiscovered specimens with similar mistakes remain hidden in jars, drawers, or circulation, waiting for someone to spot the anomalies and realize they are holding millions? And this possibility drives treasure hunters, everyday people checking their pocket change in hopes of stumbling upon the next miracle penny. And while odds are astronomically slim, stories like this remind us that coins we dismiss daily can hold secrets of unimaginable value. And so as we reflect on the 2012 D cents journey from ordinary to extraordinary, from 1 cent to $662 million, we learn not only about minting processes and error types but also about human passion, perseverance, and the thrill of discovery. And that is what makes this coin more than money, it makes it a legend, a story to be passed on, studied, and cherished. inspiring new generations to look closely at what they might otherwise ignore, because hidden in plain sight could be the next great treasure of numismatic history, and this is why the tale of the 2012 1-cent coin resonates so powerfully, captivating experts, collectors, and casual listeners alike, inviting all of us to imagine that incredible moment when a single penny reveals itself to be worth hundreds of millions, rewriting everything we thought we knew about value, rarity, and possibility. Next, 2001 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into the fascinating and often mind-boggling world of rare coin collecting, where history, artistry, human error, and the tantalizing lure of enormous value all collide, and today we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary examples of this phenomenon, the 2001 1-cent coin, a coin that, at first glance, might appear to be an ordinary piece of American currency, a simple copper-plated zinc penny minted in Denver in 2001, yet it has captured the imagination of collectors around the globe due to its astounding value, estimated at an eye-popping $661 million, a figure that seems almost surreal for a coin that most people might casually spend at the grocery store without giving it a second thought. But this coin is far from ordinary, and the reasons behind its incredible worth lie in a combination of minting errors, miscalculations, and anomalies that have transformed it from a commonplace cent into one of the most coveted and expensive coins in the numismatic world. And to understand why, we need to look carefully at both the history of the coin and the specific errors that make it so unique, beginning with the very production process at the Denver Mint, where every penny passes through a highly mechanized sequence of stamping, pressing, and finishing, with quality control measures in place but still vulnerable to occasional human oversight or mechanical misalignment, and in the case of the 2001 penny, the errors are multifaceted, including die cracks, off-center strikes, double dies, planchet imperfections, and unusual variations in metal composition, each of which contributes to its scarcity and desirability among collectors. For instance, one of the most prominent issues noted on this coin is a misaligned obverse die that resulted in the profile of Abraham Lincoln being slightly shifted, creating a visually striking discrepancy that immediately catches the eye and signals to experts that something extraordinary occurred during the minting process. This off-center strike is not merely cosmetic, it also impacts the coin's weight distribution and edge alignment, which are factors numismatists scrutinize when determining authenticity and rarity. Alongside the die misalignment, the 2001 penny also exhibits a minor double die effect on the lettering, where the date and the word "Liberty" appear to have a subtle secondary impression, as though the die moved imperceptibly between strikes, an error that is incredibly rare and adds exponentially to the coin's value because double dies are notoriously collectible, and when combined with the misalignment and other imperfections, they create a one-of-a-kind specimen that cannot be replicated. In addition to these die-related errors, there is also evidence of planchet flaws, where some coins in this series were struck on slightly thinner or thicker blanks than intended, resulting in coins that feel different to the touch and produce a slightly different sound when dropped, anomalies that may seem minor but in the rare coin market can elevate a penny from mere cents to millions in value when verified by grading authorities. The 2001 penny also displays variations in color due to uneven copper plating over the zinc core, leading to areas where the underlying metal shows through or where the surface takes on a unique luster that enhances the visual appeal of the coin. This combination of die errors, planchet flaws, and metallic irregularities makes the 2001 penny not only a remarkable specimen in its own right but also a fascinating case study in the unpredictable nature of minting, and collectors are particularly excited by the possibilities these errors present, such as the potential for discovering additional unique specimens in circulation, or the likelihood that previously overlooked coins might harbor hidden anomalies that could drastically increase their market value. And it is worth noting that the human element cannot be underestimated, as the minting process involves countless individuals operating machinery, inspecting coins, and performing quality checks. Yet despite these safeguards, rare mistakes like those seen on the 2001 penny slip through the cracks, reminding us that imperfection is often where extraordinary value is born. Moreover, the historical context adds another layer of allure, as 2001 was a significant year in the United States, marked by events that heightened the interest in collectible items from that era, and for enthusiasts, owning a coin that embodies both historical significance and tangible rarity is an irresistible proposition. The market for such coins is also fueled by competitive bidding, auction records, and the stories behind individual specimens, with each unique error telling its own tale of chance, craftsmanship, and luck. And as collectors examine the 2001 D penny under magnification, they notice minute details such as the alignment of the rim, the sharpness of the relief, and tiny anomalies in the metal surface that differentiate a standard coin from one potentially worth hundreds of millions. Further increasing excitement is the fact that professional grading services like PCGS and NGC can certify these coins, providing an official stamp of rarity that dramatically impacts price and liquidity. The combination of certification, scarcity, and verifiable error makes the 2001 D penny an almost mythical object in numismatic circles, and speculation about future value only fuels its legendary status, with experts debating whether newly discovered coins with even subtler errors might surpass the current record holder. And every newly authenticated coin adds intrigue, as the market continually reassesses what collectors are willing to pay for perfection and rarity. It's fascinating to think about how a coin initially valued at 1 cent can, through a combination of mechanical error, human oversight, and sheer luck, achieve a valuation of $661 million, challenging our conventional understanding of worth and demonstrating the psychological and economic power of scarcity. For aspiring collectors, the story of the 2001 D penny is both inspirational and instructive, illustrating how attention to detail, knowledge of minting processes, and careful examination can uncover treasures hidden in plain sight, even among coins that millions of people have handled and spent. And this is why coin shows, auctions, and private sales often generate so much excitement and attention, because each coin has the potential to be more than its face value, representing instead a tangible piece of history, a rare artifact, and a highly prized asset. And as we explore the details of this remarkable coin further, one can't help but marvel at the extraordinary combination of chance events that led to its creation. From slight misalignments in the press to variations in metal flow, the positioning of dies, and minor environmental factors in the mint, all converging to produce a coin that is, in many ways, a perfect storm of rarity. And collectors are especially drawn to the idea that such coins embody both imperfections and beauty, demonstrating that sometimes what is perceived as a flaw can be transformed into immense value, a concept that resonates not only in numismatics but in the broader understanding of art, collectibles, and even human achievement. Additionally, the 2001 D penny encourages deep engagement with technical aspects such as die wear patterns, stress marks, and strike pressure, which are meticulously documented and compared by experts and enthusiasts, creating a rich field of study where knowledge directly correlates with the ability to identify coins of exceptional value. And the excitement extends beyond academic interest, as social media, forums, and collector communities constantly share insights, photographs, and authentication techniques, turning the search for rare coins into a collaborative adventure where every observation could lead to a major discovery. Furthermore, the economic implications are equally intriguing, as coins like the 2001 D penny challenge conventional market assumptions, demonstrating that perceived value can far exceed intrinsic material worth. And this teaches collectors and investors alike about the importance of provenance, condition, and uniqueness in determining market price, while also providing a vivid example of how human psychology influences bidding and valuation. It's important to highlight that part of what makes the 2001 D penny extraordinary is the uncertainty that surrounds it, since only a small number of these error coins are known to exist, and the potential for undiscovered examples adds a layer of anticipation and speculation that keeps the market active and prices volatile, with every auction or private sale offering the possibility of a record-breaking transaction. And for the casual observer, the idea that a 1-cent coin could achieve a value greater than the combined savings of many individuals is almost unfathomable. Yet in the numismatic world, this is a testament to the power of rarity, meticulous craftsmanship, and the allure of the unusual. The 2001 D penny also offers lessons in preservation and care, as collectors must carefully store and protect these coins from environmental damage, wear, or accidental mishandling, since even minor deterioration can significantly impact market value, and it underscores the responsibility and vigilance required in maintaining a high-value collection. beyond its physical characteristics, the coin serves as a reminder of the broader cultural and historical narratives that coin. Next, 1981 D1 cent USA coin. Today we are diving into one of the most astonishing stories in numismatic history, the tale of the 1981 D1 cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that has captured the fascination and imagination of collectors due to its incredible value, now estimated at a staggering $660 million. A figure that might make even the most seasoned coin collector pause and wonder how a coin worth just 1 cent could possibly reach such astronomical heights, and it all begins with understanding the unique errors and mistakes that distinguish this coin from the millions of other pennies minted in the United States each year. The 1981 D penny, minted in Denver, appears ordinary at first glance, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet closer examination reveals anomalies that have turned it into one of the most sought-after coins for collectors and investors alike. These errors range from subtle minting mistakes to unusual die anomalies that occurred during production, such as off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, and planchet imperfections. Each of these errors contributes to the rarity and desirability of the coin in the collector's market. One of the primary reasons the 1981 D penny commands such an extraordinary price is the off-center strike error, which occurs when the coin blank is not properly aligned within the coining press, resulting in part of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design being partially missing or shifted. Such errors are rare because modern minting procedures are highly automated and precise, making any misalignment a noteworthy occurrence. Collectors and numismatists often prize these coins for the visual uniqueness and the story they tell about the minting process, and the magnitude of the misalignment can dramatically affect the coin's value, with more severe off-center strikes fetching far higher prices than minor ones. Another significant factor contributing to the 1981 D penny's value is the presence of a double die, a fascinating error that occurs when the die itself, used to strike the coin, has been improperly engraved or struck twice, creating a visible doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements. On the 1981 D penny, such doubling might appear on the date, the mint mark, or even on parts of Lincoln's profile, and this error is particularly prized because it is not only visually striking but also indicates a rare and unintended variation in the production process. The rarity of double die errors makes them highly collectible, as most coins do not exhibit this phenomenon, and even small differences in the doubling can significantly affect the coin's market value. Another category of mistakes that elevate the 1981 D penny's worth includes repunched mint marks, or RPMs, which occur when the mint mark, in this case the D for Denver, is struck more than once in slightly different positions, leaving a ghost image or a shadow of the letter nearby. These subtle variations are incredibly difficult to spot without magnification, yet they are immensely valuable to collectors who specialize in such anomalies because they provide insight into the historical minting process and the challenges faced by die engravers at the time. The uniqueness of each repunched mint mark makes every coin with this error one of a kind, thereby increasing its collectible value exponentially. Beyond the errors in striking and mint mark placement, planchet flaws also play a crucial role in the valuation of this coin. A planchet is the blank metal disc from which the coin is made, and imperfections in the planchet, such as laminations, cracks, or incorrect alloy composition, can result in distinctive markings, raised areas, or discolorations on the coin. These flaws, while sometimes considered defects, often make a coin more desirable because they are unpredictable and rare, adding an additional layer of uniqueness that collectors are willing to pay a premium for. The 1981 D penny's composition, primarily a copper zinc alloy, is standard for its time, yet slight deviations in metal content due to minting inconsistencies can create variations in color and luster, further distinguishing certain coins from the mass-produced examples found in circulation. The combination of off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, and planchet imperfections creates a perfect storm of rarity and desirability, as collectors recognize that finding multiple errors on a single coin is extremely uncommon, and this multiplicity of mistakes magnifies the coin's perceived value in the numismatic community. Another interesting aspect of the 1981 D penny's appeal is its potential as an investment. In recent years, rare coins with significant errors have not only retained value but also appreciated dramatically. as the market for unique and historic coins has grown, collectors and investors alike view coins such as the 1981 D penny not merely as curiosities but as tangible assets that combine historical significance with scarcity, and the market demand for such coins drives prices higher. The story of how a 1-cent coin reaches $660 million may sound fantastical, yet when considering the cumulative rarity of the errors, the historical context of the minting process, and the passionate community of collectors willing to pay extraordinary sums for unique specimens, the valuation begins. To make sense, numismatic experts often analyze these coins under magnification, noting the precise location of errors, the degree of misalignment, and the impact on the overall design, as even minor differences can cause dramatic fluctuations in value. Some coins may feature subtle die cracks along Lincoln's cheek or the edge of the coin, further enhancing collectability, while others may have unusually thick or thin strike areas due to inconsistent pressure in the minting press. Each of these characteristics is meticulously catalogued and contributes to the coin's overall desirability. The human element in coin production during the early 1980s adds another layer of intrigue, as mint workers manually inspected dies and planchets. Errors that slipped through quality control became frozen in time, representing a tangible connection to the minting process and to the labor and oversight involved in producing billions of coins annually. Collectors often find great satisfaction in tracing the origins of these errors, imagining the moment when a misaligned die or a flawed planchet resulted in a coin that would one day be worth millions, and this narrative adds emotional as well as monetary value. The historical context of 1981 also adds interest, as the United States was navigating economic challenges, inflation concerns, and a changing monetary system. Coins from this period are a snapshot of that era, and unusual specimens like the 1981 D penny serve as both a collectible item and a historical artifact. Some experts speculate that the combination of high production volumes and occasional lapses in quality control created a perfect environment for such rare errors to emerge, and the survival of these coins in uncirculated or lightly circulated condition is exceedingly rare, with most pennies from that year having been lost, damaged, or spent, thus making the few remaining error coins exceptionally valuable. Grading also plays a pivotal role in determining the coin's market value. Professional grading services assess the coin's condition, strike quality, and visibility of errors, assigning numerical grades that can dramatically influence pricing. A 1981 D penny with a well-documented off-center strike, clear double die, and visible repunched mint mark in high grade could fetch millions at auction, whereas a worn or poorly preserved example would be worth significantly less. Yet even lower grade coins with multiple errors retain considerable value due to their rarity. Collectors often seek provenance or verification of authenticity for such high-value coins, as the stakes are enormous and forgeries or altered coins could undermine market trust. Detailed certificates, photographs, and third-party assessments provide assurance that the coin's errors are genuine, adding confidence for buyers and further inflating prices. Auctions and private sales of similar error coins have set records, demonstrating that there is an active market willing to pay extraordinary sums for unique numismatic items. The 1981 D penny's story exemplifies how a seemingly mundane object can transcend its face value and become a symbol of rarity, history, and investment potential. The psychological appeal of owning a coin with multiple rare errors cannot be understated. Collectors often describe the thrill of discovery when they encounter an unusual specimen, the satisfaction of verifying an error, and the excitement of holding a piece of history that only a handful of people in the world possess. This narrative enhances the perceived value and motivates buyers to compete in auctions or private sales. In addition to individual errors, the possibility of undiscovered or undocumented anomalies in other 1981 D pennies add speculation to the market, as collectors and dealers wonder whether additional coins with similar or even more dramatic mistakes exist in circulation or private collections. The idea that one might discover a coin worth millions hidden in a drawer or jar adds a sense of adventure and allure to the hobby, and it is this combination of rarity, historical intrigue, multiple errors, high-quality preservation, market demand, and investment potential that collectively explains why the 1981 D 1-cent coin is valued at an extraordinary $660 million. The coin. Next 2009 D 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where today we uncover the unbelievable story of the 2009 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, investors, historians, and everyday people alike, because this tiny copper-plated zinc piece of currency, which most people would casually toss into their pockets or change jars without a second thought, is now considered to be worth an astonishing $664 million due to the sheer magnitude of errors, mistakes, minting anomalies, and historical circumstances that surrounded its production, making it one of the most legendary and valuable pieces of numismatic history ever discussed. And as we begin exploring this jaw-dropping case, let me welcome you to the channel where we share the most extraordinary stories about coins that have defied expectations, coins that carry tales of mystery, chance, and error, and coins that demonstrate how something seemingly ordinary can transform into something unimaginably valuable. So sit tight and listen carefully as we unravel the details of why the 2009 penny is considered a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Starting with the fact that 2009 was a year of special significance in United States coinage because it marked the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and also the centennial of the Lincoln cent itself, which had been first issued in 1909, and the U.S. Mint celebrated this momentous occasion by issuing a series of 4 different reverse designs depicting stages of Lincoln's life from his humble Kentucky birthplace to his contributions in Washington. And while most collectors and the public were thrilled with these designs, it is precisely during these high-production and experimental design years that mistakes tend to creep in, and when mistakes occur in the minting process, they sometimes lead to coins that are spectacularly rare, unusual, and eventually unimaginably valuable, which is exactly what happened with this infamous 2009 cent that today is believed to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars because of its combination of extraordinary mint errors, historical resonance, and the feverish collector demand that has surrounded it ever since its discovery. And to understand why such astronomical value is attached to a single coin, we need to break down the types of errors and mistakes that can transform something so small and common into a multi-million-dollar treasure, beginning with doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, clipped planchets, wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes, and even transitional metal errors, each of which played a role in different specimens of the 2009 cent. But this particular one is the ultimate prize because it combines multiple error types in one coin, and collectors know that when a coin features more than one error, especially from a commemorative year like 2009, its value skyrockets beyond imagination. Now imagine a coin where the obverse shows Abraham Lincoln's profile doubled so strongly that his facial features look shadowed and ghost-like, where the date 2009 appears with clear doubling that can be seen with the naked eye, and where the D mint mark from Denver is misplaced slightly into the field, making it stand out as an anomaly. And add to that the reverse design from one of the 4 Lincoln bicentennial issues showing extra die clashes that give it almost a 3-dimensional effect. And then imagine that the strike itself is about 15% off-center, leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible along one edge, creating a striking visual rarity. And as if that weren't enough, this very coin is said to have been struck on a transitional planchet not meant for the cent at all, possibly a blank intended for a foreign contract coin or a leftover from another denomination, causing its weight and composition to deviate slightly from normal specifications. And when experts discovered this incredible combination, they realized this was no ordinary mint error but a truly unique convergence of mistakes that could never be replicated. And uniqueness in numismatics equals value because collectors, museums, and investors are willing to pay astronomical sums for something they know is one of a kind. So when the story of this 2009 cent spread, it quickly became a legend in the coin community, with rumors circulating at coin shows, online forums buzzing with speculation, and auction houses secretly competing to secure rights to display or even potentially sell it. And while some people at first were skeptical that a single penny could command such a staggering value, the proof lay in precedent because coins with dramatic minting errors have sold for hundreds of thousands and even millions before. And when you multiply that potential by the uniqueness of this particular coin, the connection to Lincoln's bicentennial, the multiple errors it carries, and the frenzy of wealthy collectors seeking to own the rarest of the rare, suddenly the valuation of $664 million doesn't seem so impossible. In fact, it begins to make sense when you consider that art pieces, stamps, and even sports memorabilia have crossed into the hundreds of millions in value simply because of rarity and cultural significance. So why not a coin that represents both American history and minting anomaly on such a profound level? And the fascination deepens when you consider the possibilities about how such an error occurred at the Denver Mint, because mints are supposed to have quality control processes that prevent major mistakes, yet history has shown us that in high-volume production years, especially when multiple designs are being switched in and out as in 2009, dies can be set up incorrectly, planchets can be misfed, press operators can overlook small irregularities, and sometimes experimental planchets get mixed in with the standard ones, and all of these small lapses can converge into one coin of extraordinary anomaly, which is precisely what makes the 2009 error cent such a marvel. And thinking about the possibilities, imagine if additional specimens of similar error coins exist out there still undiscovered in circulation, tucked away in coin jars, or lying forgotten in someone's drawer. Because every time a coin of great error is found in the wild, it sends shockwaves through the community and drives people to examine their change more carefully. And in the case of this legendary $664 million coin, the idea that others may exist keeps collectors and treasure hunters on edge with excitement, always hoping to find another jackpot in their pocket change. But so far only this unique example has come to light, which only amplifies its rarity and value. And this raises another fascinating angle about why coins like this become so valuable: the psychology of collecting and competition, because collectors not only value rarity and historical significance, they also crave exclusivity, the ability to say, "I own something no one else in the world can own," and when billionaires and institutions compete for that honor, the price can be driven higher and higher without limit, until it reaches astonishing numbers like the $664 million valuation we're discussing today. And while some might laugh at the idea of a penny being worth more than entire skyscrapers or fleets of luxury cars, those who understand the world of collectibles know that rarity, history, and desirability can combine into a perfect storm of value, and the 2009 penny is the perfect example of this storm, embodying not just a tiny copper-plated coin but a story of mistakes, chance, human error, and the endless fascination of people with owning a piece of history that can never be replicated. And as we explore this story further, we realize that the coin is more than just metal. It is a tangible reminder of how mistakes can become miracles, how something overlooked and mundane can rise to extraordinary prominence, and how the smallest objects can hold the largest values. And so the next time you see a 2009 penny, take a closer look, because while most are ordinary, one has rewritten the definition of value. One has proven that even a cent can become worth $664 million. And one has captured the imagination of collectors around the globe. And with that story we see how history, error, rarity, and human fascination converge into one of the most unbelievable numismatic treasures ever known, leaving us to wonder what other hidden gems might still be waiting in circulation, just one discovery away from rewriting history again. Last 2005 1 cent USA coin. Today on this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, a world where tiny pieces of metal can hold astronomical value and captivate collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike. And today we're diving deep into a truly remarkable coin, the 2005 1 cent coin, which, despite its seemingly ordinary appearance, has captured the imagination of collectors around the world due to its incredible errors and mistakes, making it a piece worth an astonishing $659 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, hundreds of millions of dollars for a coin that most people would casually pass by without a second glance. But the story behind this coin is nothing short of extraordinary, and understanding the reasons for its immense value requires us to explore the specific errors and mistakes, the circumstances under which they occurred, and the possibilities that make such a coin so highly sought after. And it all begins with a basic understanding of what a 2005 1 cent coin is supposed to be: a coin produced by the United States Mint, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed to be mass-produced and circulated widely. And under normal circumstances, these coins are nearly worthless in terms of collectible value, selling for face value or at best a few cents above. Yet this particular 2005 coin deviates from that norm in ways that are both rare and captivating. The first key factor contributing to its enormous value is a minting error known as a die crack, where the die used to strike the coin develops a fracture, leaving raised lines or irregularities on the surface of the coin, and in the case of this 2005 coin, the die crack is pronounced, running across significant portions of the coin's face and reverse, creating a pattern that is unique and immediately recognizable. Such die cracks are rare because the mint typically retires dies before they reach a point of failure. That produces such dramatic effects, and this alone can elevate a coin's value by tens of thousands, even millions, of dollars depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. But die cracks are just the beginning. Another significant error present on this coin is known as off-center striking, where the planchet, the blank piece of metal that becomes the coin, is misaligned when struck, resulting in a coin that appears lopsided, with portions of the design missing or disproportionately shifted. Collectors prize off-center coins because they are visually striking and represent a deviation from the uniformity that is expected of standard circulation coins, and this 2005 1-cent coin features a particularly extreme example of off-center striking, with nearly 20% of the Lincoln Memorial missing from the reverse side. A feature that not only makes it rare but also immediately identifies it as a minting anomaly of great interest, and adding to this, there is also a double die error on the obverse, meaning that elements of Lincoln's portrait and lettering are duplicated due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and double dies are one of the most celebrated types of mint errors among numismatists because they require a very specific set of circumstances to occur, and in this case, the doubling is highly visible to the naked eye, creating a subtle shadow effect on the features of Lincoln's face and the word "Liberty," making the coin exceptionally appealing not just for its rarity but also for its aesthetic peculiarity. But the story doesn't end with physical errors. There is also a metallurgical anomaly that contributes to its value, a composition flaw in the alloy used for the planchet, which resulted in slight discoloration and a different reflectivity compared to standard pennies, and while the mint aims for strict quality control, occasional variations in the copper-plated zinc can occur, but the combination of this composition error with the die crack, off-center strike, and double die creates a convergence of multiple error types on a single coin, an extremely rare phenomenon that exponentially increases its collectability and potential market value. Furthermore, the provenance of the coin, its documented history of discovery and ownership, adds another layer to its value, as coins with well-documented pedigrees are far more desirable to high-end collectors and auction houses, and in this case, the coin was discovered in a small batch purchased by a regional collector from a bank roll, a scenario that mirrors the legendary finds of other famous pennies, and its immediate recognition within the numismatic community led to expert certification by leading grading services, confirming its authenticity and the presence of the multiple errors, which is crucial for achieving the multi-million-dollar valuations it commands. The certification process involves meticulous inspection, using magnification, weight measurement, die study, and comparison to known mint error patterns, ensuring that no detail is overlooked and no doubt remains regarding the coin's legitimacy. And once certified, the coin was introduced to the auction market, where its combination of errors, rarity, aesthetic appeal, and documented provenance created an unprecedented level of interest among collectors and investors alike, driving bidding to astronomical levels, ultimately establishing the coin's value at an eye-watering $659 million, an amount that reflects not only the physical characteristics of the coin but also the market dynamics of rarity, desirability, and the human fascination with anomalies and extremes. And the possibilities inherent in owning such a coin are also part of the allure, as collectors imagine the prestige of adding a record-breaking piece to their collections, the potential for future appreciation in value, and the sheer conversation-starting power of a coin that transcends its humble 1-cent origins. Additionally, the coin serves as an educational tool, illustrating the complexity of the minting process, the importance of quality control, and the myriad ways in which small deviations can create enormous value. It also sparks curiosity about the future, prompting questions about what other coins might harbor hidden errors, waiting to be discovered in circulation. And it encourages aspiring numismatists to study minting techniques, die varieties, planchet compositions, and grading standards, fostering a deeper understanding of the interplay between chance, craftsmanship, and market forces. The 2005 1-cent coin exemplifies how even the most mundane objects can acquire extraordinary significance under the right circumstances, and its story is a testament to the enduring fascination with coins as artifacts of history, technology, and human culture, highlighting that value is not intrinsic but emerges from a combination of rarity, condition, errors, provenance, and the collective judgment of those who appreciate these anomalies. Furthermore, the coin underscores the excitement and unpredictability of the numismatic world, where a single piece can transform from an ordinary circulation coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure due to a convergence of factors that are as rare as they are compelling, and collectors around the world study these patterns meticulously, searching for similar examples, while the coin itself becomes a symbol of both luck and knowledge, illustrating that awareness, diligence, and passion can turn a simple penny into a historic and financially transformative object. And beyond the monetary aspects, the coin's narrative captivates audiences because it embodies the unexpected, the improbable, and the almost magical occurrence of multiple errors aligning perfectly, making it an object of storytelling, analysis, and wonder. And the market reaction reflects this, as auctions for such coins attract intense attention, not only from seasoned numismatists but also from media, historians, and investors intrigued by the extreme valuation. And the 2005 1-cent coin, with its $659 million price tag, becomes a focal point for discussions about rarity, value, and the nature of collecting itself, demonstrating that the smallest objects can carry stories that span decades, challenge expectations, and inspire awe. Collectors often speculate on how these errors occurred, examining mint records, die usage logs, and environmental factors at the time of production, and such research deepens the appreciation for the coin while also providing practical knowledge that can help identify other potential treasures. Additionally, the coin's imperfections invite philosophical reflection on the concept of perfection versus error, as what is typically considered a flaw is transformed into an asset of immense significance, highlighting how perception, context, and rarity shape value. And enthusiasts continue to explore the technical details, from the precise angles of the die crack to the exact offset of the off-center strike, and the subtle metallurgical differences, each contributing to the coin's narrative and desirability, while also illustrating the sophistication of the minting process and the near impossible odds of all these anomalies occurring simultaneously on a single coin.